I'm Jake Hoffman.
And this is Moderately Outraged. I want to open up the show by giving a huge congratulations to all the Democrats out there because you guys did it. You ended fascism. You really did it.
Yeah, and in its place, you got a single person who's unilaterally signing 19 executive orders in a single day, skirting all of the checks and balances that we have, and really honestly doesn't even actually know what he's signing. There's literal video of him saying, "What am I signing?" on day one. So that's what we have, guys. We did it. We ended fascism. So here we are. This is America now.
But that sounds like fascism. I don't know. But for anybody out there who is a Democrat and is about to go, oh, but now you guys suddenly care about all the executive orders. What about Trump? I just want to say this. I was one of Trump's biggest critics about him signing all of those executive orders, specifically those that undid what Obama had done in his past presidency. Why? Because I thought it set a bad precedent. Because specifically for this instance, because in the future, I worry that we might have a day where we have a socialist president that will come in and put sweeping, executive orders across the board and will literally undo everything that Trump had just done. And what are we watching happen? Exactly that. Unfortunately, 4 years ago when all that was going on, we didn't have a show, so it's not on record. But I was a big critic of it. I'm just going to say that. He knows it. He had to hear it. So
this section was just called Michelle's High Horse. Anyway, so we're going to actually jump into the 19 different executive orders. We honestly do not have enough time to keep your attention for all 19 executive orders. We can do an entire 20-minute episode on every single one of these to go into depth on what the actual meaning of these are. So I'm just going to do a sweeping overview of probably about 3 or 5 of the 19.
And keep in mind, this has all happened in the first, 36 hours of him being president?
Yeah, by the time this airs, there's probably going to be another 19. I have no idea.
They're coming in at such a rate, it's insanity. We had to wait a week to film the show because we couldn't keep up.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. And so that's actually the plan, I think, is what is happening, is that they're just doing 19 different things so that Republicans, people that are critics, can't just focus on one thing and be like, hey, what are you doing with immigration over here? It's like, what do we do with immigration? What are you guys doing with climate? What are you guys doing with COVID? There's so much going on. You're just baffled with BS right now that we can't even aim our targets at a single bad thing because there's 19 bad things happening. About 17 out of 19 bad things. So most of these 5 or so are about COVID.
So let's start there.
Let's start there. COVID regulations, we are now going back and trying to pretend that Joe Biden is going to solve COVID-19. That's what's happening right here. They're putting in completely meaningless executive orders around COVID so they can come back and say, as soon as Joe Biden got in, he put orders on COVID and COVID went down because we finally took it seriously.
And it all went away.
And it just all went away. It just all goes away. Conveniently, though, they changed what qualifies for a positive test.
Yes, please look this up on the CDC website. It's on there. I've looked it up myself. I've posted a link on several of our pages. But check this out on the CDC website. It is on there. They explain what now qualifies as a COVID test. And really it's in the section that is for people that are providing the test, not necessarily for the average American. But what they explain is that now you need
a second positive test and a clinical diagnosis. So all of a sudden you've cut all the tests. If you haven't noticed, in the last 10 days, case numbers are plummeting. They're going to continue to plummet. Deaths are going to continue to plummet because they're not going to be classified as COVID-19.
Because now, guess what? That one rapid test you got that one time, it's not good enough. Why is all of a sudden it not good enough now, but it was good enough under Trump?
And how many times did I come on this damn show last year and say that the rapid tests were not accurate? Why are we counting these? So go back. We have the receipts. The best thing about having this show is that they can try and erase us. They can try and pretend like we haven't been saying this, but I have the receipts as long as Facebook doesn't take us down. But That's what's going on right now. They're going to pretend that Joe Biden is going to sweep in and come and fix COVID-19 when in reality it peaked a year ago. It peaked a year ago.
They've already opened up outdoor dining in LA, and it's like
in Michigan, in every state that has had strict lockdowns, all of a sudden now it's safe enough because we're basing it on made up stats. I have to digress because we can't talk too long about COVID because I'm going to go for another 20 minutes on COVID.
Really quick, though, here in Tampa, we just heard that we have to have an outdoor mask mandate for the Super Bowl because you can't be, apparently, outside of your house without a mask. Okay, cool, but yet the rest of the country is opening up because that makes so much sense here.
We're simping for the NFL, but that's okay because I'm happy that the Bucs are in the Super Bowl. That is something that we can all celebrate down here at least. Yeah. So shout out to them. Thank you, Tom Brady. I used to hate you. You're an amazing person now. So quick sidebar.
Speaking of simping, the biggest simp probably out there is the WHO because they are huge proponents of China. They're pretty much an arm of Chinese propaganda. They sat there at the beginning of this pandemic and just told us
for them, lied.
Yeah, and said China was doing everything right, that China has this pandemic under control and the world should follow China's, what China had done. And guess who had at first, we only were listening to the CDC and then we were only listening to the WHO and it was back and forth, but we've rejoined the WHO. So fantastic.
Great, more world government. Cool. That's what we wanted. Thank you, Joe Biden. This is what we can expect for 4 more years. Yeah. A bunch of nonsense global policies that do not help America, that actually lie to America, that do not put America first. We are going straight back to America last policy. If there's one theme of all 19 executive orders, it is America last.
Yeah, and I think the perfect example of that is really us rejoining the Paris Climate Accords. That is the best example of putting America last because and having policy that sounds great. It
has the word Paris in it. It has to be clean. Right? That's honestly how I think Americans think about it. They look at it and they go, the Paris Climate Accords. They're doing great things over in Paris.
Okay, why would people? First off, I've never been to Paris, but people who have tell me it's actually really dirty. It's a terrible city, and that literally people are getting robbed and killed there nearly every day. It's a dangerous city. It's not what Americans think it is. But I digress. The Paris Climate Accords are the epitome of their liberalism at its finest. It is liberals saying we're going to do something great for the world, but then in reality, all they do is sit there and just send out American dollars to foreign governments, but then
hold us to standards that harm our economy, that harm our businesses here. And speaking of harming our businesses, he canceled the Keystone Pipeline. So there's 11,000 jobs all of a sudden that are just automatically gone for virtue signaling. So there's that. And then from there, you are taking all of the burden off of China and India. The Paris Accords are a failure, a complete failure, because we signed into law an agreement to end global emissions that basically asked the 2 biggest countries that emit pollution to do nothing. And then we agreed to it. Then we agreed to pay money to let them do it. And it is just a completely backwards agreement in principle. If you want to create something like this one day, I'm sure it can be done in the right way, but what needs to happen is you need to jump back into a new agreement like Trump was trying to do that actually holds China accountable, that actually holds India accountable, and prevents them from polluting so much.
Continuing to talk about just putting America and the American worker last. We have, Joe Biden put out an executive order to raise the federal minimum wage to $15. So you've shut down small businesses for a year. You're crushing them. And then you don't provide them enough relief. They're spending trillions, but is it really getting to the small business owners? No. If it was, then Dave Portnoy wouldn't have to be out there with the Barstool Sports Fund. And that is doing more for small businesses than the government, has done in years. And it's absurd. And then finally, when they're able to start opening up, what does the government do? Bam, hey guys, you get slapped with a $15 minimum wage requirement. This is going to crush small businesses beyond the point of what Dave
Add
Portnoy.
to unemployment.
Yeah, add to unemployment beyond the point of what Dave Portnoy, can even help or do, and then not to mention, where are we going to get the money for all this? I mean, at the end of the day, they do not care about the money. They will just keep printing and printing, because when these people are unemployed, when these small businesses go under, guess who they're going to have to rely on? The government, which the government is perfectly happy to do under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's what they want. They want you reliant on them. They want to just keep printing money like there's no tomorrow, because like inflation doesn't matter or anything. And they want to just keep forcing you to, have to rely on them so that they can keep implementing more and more social welfare programs.
Yeah, they do not want you day trading. They do not want you making money on GameStop. They do not want you making money on AMC or Nokia. None of that. They want none of that. They will not allow it. They will stop you from making money in every way they possibly can this year. So I hope that the people out there do what they can to try and survive, but it is getting bleaker and bleaker out there as we go down these executive orders.
It's been 3 days!
And it's been 3 days. It's been a little bit longer than 3 days now. But that's just the beginning, right? Now what you're going to have to deal with is the culture war stuff, which is coming. The cancel culture is the newest. It's not new, but these executive orders enforce cancel culture. Which
is mind-boggling.
They really do. You go down to something like, so they have equitable pandemic response. Okay, so no longer in a pandemic are we going to go based on who's sickest or who needs medical attention. We're going to go by race. It's just like MLK would have wanted.
Wait, what? That's actually what that is?
That is what that is.
I didn't realize that.
We're going to give vaccines based on race. We're not going to do it based on health or anything like that. This is Joe Biden's America. This is Obama's America. We're going to just categorize everything by race, and it's going to be racial politics. It's going to be everything is looked at through a lens of identity politics, and it's going to be done on racial lines.
And speaking of identity politics, Joe Biden's next executive order was, of course, immigration. And I'll give it to him with DACA. I don't have a problem with giving citizenship to kids who were brought here under their, not under their own volition. But, ending the border wall that's already been built, and then also, giving blanket citizenship to 11 million, if not more, immigrants.
There's no way it's 11. It's 20, it's 30 million, easily.
And then what happens to all the people that are starting to flood over the border? I mean, right now, Guatemala had a flood of people across their border. Do you think they're stopping in Guatemala or Mexico? No, they're coming to the United States. What happens when they step foot across our border? And are we adding border security? Like, there's no process. There's no process for nationalization.
Imagine a world without borders.
Oh, yeah, that's right. John Lennon said it, right? It has to be.
Just enjoy it.
It has to be beautiful. And that means it has to be the right way to live. Like, no. Borders are a nation's security.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that immigrants don't help America. Immigration is important for our country to thrive. Immigrants actually help America and help us to succeed. But there has to be checks and balances in a system in place. We need to reform our immigration system.
It's something we've been saying for years and many years. But one of the biggest things I wanted to hit on is that a lot of people don't realize why Rome failed. If you go back and you really...
Great point.
If you go back and you really understand why did the Roman Empire fail, it's because of two things, really.
One, my favorite thing, inflation.
One, inflation, because they got into too many foreign wars. So they were overextended. So their balance sheets were overextended because they were funding foreign wars. Well, check and mate on the United States. And then the other thing that happened is when they did have other people coming into the Roman Empire because of the fact that they were either taking over land or people were invading, whatever the reason is, they did not get assimilated into Roman culture. So all of a sudden, you had several different cultures that didn't even consider themselves Roman that were all living under Roman rule. So they thought to themselves, why do I have to listen to these people over in the capital? And what you need to understand is that we are getting very, very close in this country to having an entirely another half of America that just doesn't even believe in any sort of American idealism. And if you don't assimilate immigrants to this country, we can get immigrants. Like, we can have immigrants from every country in the world. If they believe in America and they believe in the ideals that we have and the American principles and American exceptionalism and all the things that make this country great, as long as they believe in all of those things, we bring them into the country with open arms. But what we can't do is we can't just blanket citizenship everybody that wants to show up here with no effort to assimilate them to our culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, how do you know these people weren't criminals in their native homelands? How do you know that? Like, what is
too much logistics, too much facts? We can't go there.
Oh God!
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time.
You're right. That
it's a whole
is
episode.
Another episode for another day. But something I want to say real quick on what you were saying about American, people that believe in American ideals. The saddest thing to me is actually that more immigrants genuinely believe in American ideals than a lot of people that were born in this nation. A lot of white Americans who were born in this nation, the most privileged, that preach to you about white privilege. They preach to you every single day about how much white privilege you have and how privileged you are because you have your white skin, but yet they don't recognize their own privilege of being Americans and the privilege that they have over everybody else. They want to hate everything that America stands for without accepting the privilege that America gives them, not just their white skin. So that's my statement on that.
Yeah, but I'm actually going to do something I don't usually do, and I'm going to give the Democrats a little bit of credit and Joe Biden a little bit of credit because there were, like I said earlier, 2 executive orders that I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with. I don't agree with the way that they were just thrown at the country, but ultimately are net positives, I would say. So ending private prison, one of the things that they were doing there, I think that probably is a step in the right direction.
It was ending federal funding
of private prisons. So it's not going to get much better in public prisons either, but at least we're not trying to incentivize people to put people in jail. And it's not a profit-driven system, which is ultimately bad for this country.
A little ironic that this is coming from the Biden-Harris administration that still have not
basically responsible for it.
And have not at all admitted one iota of responsibility or blame in saying that what they individually did in passing the 94 crime bill and then Kamala enforcing the 94 crime bill as aggressively as she did against predominantly young black males was wrong. Neither have admitted fault at that.
Yeah, and one of the things that people are going to have to come to terms with is that Joe Biden's going to spend a lot of time trying to reverse policies that they put in the first place. Like, that's what these executive orders are, right? They're trying to reverse all the time that they already spent in the legislature for the last 47 years. But the other thing I'll give them credit for is going to be extending the moratorium on student loan repayment and 0% interest. I personally think it's okay that if our student loans are sitting at 0% interest right now during the pandemic, I think that that's a very simple way of putting an undue burden onto people who are probably out of work or not making that much money right now. I'm not saying we want to pay back student loans, but leaving them at 0 interest right now, it doesn't seem like the biggest harm to me. But let's talk about our final. There are some very, very deeply, deeply unpopular executive orders at the end here. And not even just Republicans hating on them or independents hating on them. Even Democrats don't like some of these executive orders. So number one is, it didn't come in, but the suggestion of trying to repay student loans, $10,000, $30,000, $50,000 is on the table.
$50,000 was on the table?
Oh, that's Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, she wanted $50,000 repayments.
God.
So that is...
I love when I learn things like on the spot on the show and then people get to see my live reaction.
Yeah, it would be amazing. It's like if you would listen to me throughout our daily activities, you might actually have already known some of these things. But, so, if you take that and you look at like the popularity of that policy between a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican, if you paid your student loans back, you are not happy with this. If you worked your way through school, you're not happy with this. If you didn't go to college because you couldn't afford it, you're not happy with that. So this is a very deeply, deeply unpopular policy unless you're a millennial who just got out of college. Other than those people, nobody thinks this is a good idea. So there's that. And then the last thing that I will say is this is going to be the most unpopular one is all of this trans rights executive orders. And it's not that we are against trans people. Let's just start there.
We're not in any way, shape, or form saying that trans people should be discriminated against, but there are, and we're not going to get into it in this episode because we need to do an entire episode to break this down because it is so complicated and nuanced, and I really think it's important to discuss those nuances and discuss, all the differing opinions in the field, and coming from mental health and mental health experts and people that have experienced this.
But the reality is that people with common sense do not want biological men competing in women's sports.
Yes,
that's where the line is drawn. Look, if you want to be trans, be trans. If you want to change genders and sexes, fine. Nobody here wants to stop you from doing that. But what we do want to stop you from doing is we don't want somebody to come in and take legal steroids for 7 years and throw 100-mile-an-hour fastballs at girls when they're in high school. I don't want that.
I'll say, as someone who played co-rec basketball with boys when I was in 6th grade, I got manhandled by them and got shoved down the court constantly. Versus when I played all women's basketball, it was a lot simpler and a lot easier, and I could actually compete. There is no competing with a genetic male. It is just not possible.
And again, it's not even just genetic male because you're talking about putting hormone changing chemicals into people. So it's literally like taking steroids. So if it's not allowed in high school sports or college sports or professional sports, why are we even? This is so backwards. Like again, we're gonna do a whole episode. We have to do a whole episode on it.
At its core, though, this is what I want to say.
It's anti-feminist.
It's anti-feminist. It's anti-woman. It is anti-woman, and that's what's really key to remember about this. But again, we will break it down and we will save that for the next episode. So stay tuned. If I know a lot of people care about this issue, and I know it's probably the one that they're the most fired up about, so stay fired up because we are going to talk about it at length. And we'll get full 20 minutes on it.
And if you wanted an overall theme to wrap this show up, it is that you are going to get executive order after executive order, and if you Congress, the Senate, what they're going to do is they're going to pass.
They're all Democratic right now. Keep in mind, both the Congress and the Senate are Democratic, and the president's a Democrat. They could pass whatever they wanted through, but why? But he's not using any of his legislative bodies. He's just using executive orders to get this out as fast as possible.
I think we're giving him too much credit by saying he's doing it.
No,
to be honest, because
Kamala's
Kamala's not even doing it. These things were written 4 years ago, honestly, and they just put down on a desk as soon as whoever got there to sign. I mean, he literally doesn't even know what he's signing. So that's happening right now. I have no confidence in the President of the United States. I mean, do you listen to Joe Biden and have confidence that this guy is really in charge and he really knows what he's doing and he's really leading us through? No. It's literally like a puppet candidate while we really have like a Manchurian candidate that's just like getting pushed through all of this stuff like Weekend at Bernie's. And again, to end this show, all I want to say is that this is what you can expect for the next 4 years is executive orders, terrible policy. Everything is about race. Everything is about intersectionality. Everything is about identity politics. There is no in saying all of the right things by doing all of the wrong policies. That is the theme of Obama. That was the theme of Joe Biden. It's going to be the theme of Joe Biden. It's just
going to be even worse. It is Obama era policies on steroids.
It is just I'm going to look you in the eyes, tell you I love you.
Therapy.
Yeah. And they're just going to stare you in the eyes and whisper sweet nothings to you while they put policies that just put America last.
Yeah.
And that's why we're moderately outraged this week. So if this episode made you moderately outraged, please follow, like, subscribe to our channel, American Wire, BizPack Review, Conservative News Today. Everybody that helps support us, I thank you, and we will come to you next week from
make sure,
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and if there's a comment that you want to leave, tell us which executive order made you the most outraged. And tell us, especially if you're a small business owner, we want to hear from you and what you think about the $15 minimum wage. I think that's really important to hit on, and we want to hear from small business owners because we know a lot of them watch our show. So thank you so much. Please share and subscribe, and make sure you follow our Moderately Outraged Instagram page for more content at Moderately Outraged. Thank you so much, and good night.